It has been a really excruciating World Cup qualifying campaign for Nigeria, a campaign which saw them stare elimination in the eye multiple times, but somehow they're still in it. In a previous video, we said that a million things will have to go Nigeria's way for them to be at the 2026 World Cup, and well, so far, it appears that those things have been going their way. But considering the amount of talent and the number of superstar names that they boast, this should not be the case. It should never have gotten to this. Their performances have been rather disappointing, and it has inspired us to look at other golden generations which have ended up like this. These are 7 most disappointing golden generations in football history. Of course, we'll start with Nigeria, with players like Victor Osimhen, Ademola Lookman, Calvin Bassey, Samuel Chukwueze, Alex Iwobi, Victor Boniface, Taiwo Awoniyi, and many more big names. Nigerian football is currently at the best it has ever been, and so one would expect Nigeria to be flying high everywhere, but they have been rather disappointing. They failed to qualify for the 2022 World Cup and are currently taking the longest possible route to the 2026 edition. In between those, they have also failed to conquer the continent. They finished 3rd at the 2019 AFCON, got knocked out in the round of 16 of the 2021 AFCON, and lost the final of the 2023 edition. With a squad that packed, Nigeria being trophyless in over a decade and missing out on back-to-back World Cup tournaments is something that should never be said. I mean, even with the World Cup having been expanded to accommodate more teams, Nigeria is still struggling to qualify? That's just poor. And we can say the same about England. These guys have had 2 golden generations and they've both been really disappointing. In the 2000s, England boasted some of the best players in the world. Michael Owen, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, John Terry, Paul Scholes, Wayne Rooney, Gary Neville, Ashley Cole, Rio Ferdinand, David Beckham are just a few names that were in that England team, and they were all in the prime of their careers. But not only did they never win any trophy, they were often very disappointing at the tournaments. They only got as far as the quarterfinals in the 2002 and 2006 World Cup tournaments, and then in 2010 they were knocked out in the round of 16. Their Euros performances were even worse. They were unable to get out of the group at Euro 2000, got knocked out of the quarterfinals in 2004, and failed to even qualify for Euro 2008. After this generation retired, another golden generation started to come up around 2017, and while this generation has managed to reach the semi-finals of the World Cup and back-to-back Euros finals, they still have not been able to win a major trophy, which still makes it disappointing. The fact that England still haven't won anything since 1966 is nothing short of a disgrace. But of course, England are not the only Europeans on this list. Can you guess who the others are? Take a shot in the comments, we'll see if you're right soon. While you're there, if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, go do that right away, so you never miss out on our amazing content. Now let's talk about Côte d'Ivoire. Between the late 2000s and the early 2000s, the West African nation produced a truckload of talents. From Didier Drogba to Yaya Touré, Didier Zokora, Kolo Touré, Salomon Kalou, Rovigno, Emmanuel Eboué, and many more stars. With these players, they qualified for the World Cup in 2006, 2010, and 2014, but they were unable to get out of their group even once. They were also unable to bring the AFCON trophy back home since 1992, even suffering a very shocking loss in the final to Zambia in 2012. Interestingly, it was after some of the superstars of the golden generation had retired that Côte d'Ivoire then clinched the trophy in 2015. At that point, the likes of Drogba, Eboué and Zokora had already retired, so the generation wasn't really gold anymore. At best, it was a silver generation. Another country that belongs on this list is Argentina. In the 2010s, they had perhaps the most stacked team in world football. Di Maria, Higuaín, Agüero, Mascherano, Zabaleta, Tevez, Otamendi, Milito, Pastore, and of course Lionel Messi himself, who was already the best player in the world at the time. But they just weren't able to win trophies. They got to finals but never found a way to win. They got to the World Cup final in 2014 and Copa America finals in 2015 and 2016, but did not get their hands on any piece of silverware. It might sound harsh to say that a team that always got to finals were disappointing, but such are the standards with Argentina, especially with the number of global stars that they had in that generation. Anyway, shortly after most of the superstars retired, Argentina started to dominate world football once again, but the golden generation was already over. when they won the Copa America in 2021 to break their 28-year trophyless drought. The likes of Higuain, Tevez, Mascherano, Zabaleta, Milito and Pastore were no longer there. So it was no longer the golden generation. Now, remember we said there are other European nations on this list? Well, one of them is France. They're currently in a golden generation, and of course, these ones have been super brilliant, winning the World Cup in 2018 and getting to the final in 2022. But the golden generation before this one was very disappointing. They had a golden generation in the early 2000s with players like Henry, Trezeguet, Pires, Vieira, Ribéry, Malouda, Anelka and many more, but they didn't live up to expectations. They failed to get out of the group stage in the 2002 World Cup, 2008 Euros and 2010 World Cup. They even struggled to qualify for the 2006 World Cup, needing Zidane and a few other OGs to come out of retirement to help them. They managed to reach the final of that tournament, but they lost to Italy there. But thankfully, it didn't take them long to birth another golden generation, with a new set of superstars coming along in 2016 and leading the country to a reign of dominance. Up next, let's talk about Portugal. They had a golden generation in the early 2000s with players like Figo, Deco, Rui Costa, Ricardo Carvalho, Maniche, Simão and a young Ronaldo, but they were unable to win anything. They got to the final of Euro 2004, which they hosted, but they ended up losing that one to underdogs Greece. That was the biggest disappointment of all. Right now, Portugal is in another golden generation, which has also been rather disappointing. Yes, they just won the Nations League, but with the team they have, they should be winning World Cups and Euros. It is often said that Portugal can field 3 different strong 11s. That's how good they are. But they got knocked out in the round of 16 of the 2018 World Cup and 2020 Euros, and in the quarter-finals of the 2022 World Cup and 2024 Euros. Interestingly, it was in the middle of their 2 golden generations that they won their first trophy. They were so bad at the 2014 World Cup, failing to get out of their group, but 2 years later, they went all the way to win the Euros for the first time ever. The likes of Figo, Deco and Maniche were gone, but the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leao and João Cancelo had not yet come, so you could say they were sort of in a transition phase, but ironically, that transition phase still remains the most successful period in the national team's history. But really, you'll struggle to find many golden generations as disappointing as that of Belgium. These guys had a golden generation between 2013 and 2022, when they boasted some of the outright best players in the world. They had Hazard, De Bruyne, Lukaku, Courtois, Moussa Dembélé, Kompany, Vertonghen, Vermaelen, Benteke, Fellaini, Alderweireld, and many more top players, but they just couldn't translate that to trophies. They would always win qualifying games and top the FIFA rankings, but when it came to actual competitions, they'd falter. They reached the quarter-finals of the 2014 World Cup and finished 3rd in 2018, but in 2022, which was regarded as the last year of the golden generation, they were unable to make it out of their group. They also only got as far as the quarter-finals at the 2016 and 2020 Euros, but they got worse after some of the big names started to retire, which saw them get knocked out in the round of 16 of the 2024 edition. Till date, it's still shocking to many fans how Belgium has never won a trophy, despite all the superstar names they have produced. I mean, they don't even have a Nations League trophy to their name. Are there more golden generations you'd say have been disappointing? Which would you say is the most disappointing of the lot? Talk to us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.